The Coyotes close the book on Arizona. The Caitlin Clark effect continues, and catching a glimpse of the legend Leo Messi. That is what we have on tap here in the boardroom, as we are joined by our friend Andy Cagnetta. I am Cyrus Wittig. You are listening to the boardroom here on ESPN 106.3, streaming free on the ESPN app. It is the boardroom presented by the Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches. It is the only sports business radio show in the state of Florida. And as I said, joining me now is a guy who is no stranger to a real-life boardroom. My guy, Andy Cagnetta, the CEO of Transworld Business Advisors, the industry leaders when it comes to helping people buy and sell their business. A little bit more about Transworld before we talk with Andy. You know, if you were on the sell side trying to sell your business, it's not like selling your house. You can't just stick a for sale sign in the yard, post it on Zillow, and voila. You need the brokers of Transworld to make sure that you are getting the best possible price. And on the other hand, if you are buying a business, you need the Transworld brokers to make sure the business is healthy and well-positioned for the future. Transworld Business Advisors has more than 40 years of experience. They've sold more than 15,000 businesses, and they have more than 850 brokers and 250 offices worldwide. Check them out at tworld.com. Again, tworld.com. Transworld Business Advisors, bringing buyers and sellers together. So, Andy, speaking of buying and selling, I want to start with the Arizona Coyotes, who went out winners last night. They defeated the Edmonton Oilers 5-2 in their last game, for now at least, in the state of Arizona. It was recently announced that the NHL is facilitating the sale of the team to the Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith, and the former owner of the Arizona Coyotes, Alex Meruelo, is going to get $1 billion for the sale of the team. Back up 5 years, Meruelo buys the team for $425 million in 2019. He could not find a suitable home. They were playing in a 4,600-seat arena on the campus of Arizona State. They could not find any sustained on-ice success. And I'm just left, Andy, scratching my head on how you make $500 million basically having done nothing constructive.
We've talked about sports teams before. They make no sense financially other than the resale value, right? They keep appreciating, and it's the vanity buy. It just seems to be a scarcity valuation that, you know, if you want to own a sports team, one of the major four, if you want to call it the major four franchises, it's going to cost you $1 billion these days. And it's just a comparative model of people wanting to buy these franchises. It's just crazy.
So talking about a crummy owner in Alex Meruelo, and then you go over to maybe the worst in sports. John Fisher, owner of the Oakland A's. He's been disingenuous in his negotiations to keep the team in Oakland. He hasn't done anything for the upkeep of the Coliseum where the A's play. He hasn't spent the money to keep the team competitive. I mean, the payroll for the team right now is less than it was almost 20 years ago. And again, he's being rewarded. They're going to move the team to Las Vegas after a couple of years in Sacramento. And Andy, I just feel bad for the fans. I mean, the Raiders leave Oakland, now the A's, and I just feel like the fans in general are paying the price and at the mercy of these owners sometimes. And it's ironic because you say, we don't have sports without the fans, but I don't even know if that's true anymore.
Yeah, I think he really buried the franchise. I think he did it to make it easier to move. I mean, because if they had a lot of fans or the fans weren't so pissed off, maybe they would put up a lot more of a stink to MLB, and the MLB would say, hey, we can't make all these fans upset. So It's pretty interesting. I think, money always talks, right? At the end of the day, it's always about the money, and the money's not with the fan right now. It's with the broadcasting rights. It's with the sponsorships. It's with the fan, coming to the games and buying beers. And I don't think that's the major portion of it anymore.
Just doesn't move the needle. Andy, for someone who wants to sell their professional sports franchise, I think it's always going to be fairly easy to find a buyer. For Transworld, when you are working with a business owner that wants to sell their company, what's the process that you take in looking for a potential buyer?
We remind people that we're not looking for the buyer that's going to pay the most money oftentimes. Of course, we want the most money for the business, and the seller wants the most money for the business. But what we're looking for is a buyer that's going to do good things with the business. A lot of times there has to be money left behind, whether it's in an earnout or whether it's in a seller note. So we're looking for a buyer that's going to be able to be successful, and you certainly don't want a buyer not to be successful because that could lead to legal action, things like that. So we're looking for the best fit. We're looking for the best buyer. And to get the best buyer, a lot of times you have to do a worldwide search to make sure you have a choice of the best buyers. The buyers that are going to treat the employees right, that are going to respect the brand, that are going to not change a lot of things, at least not initially. Make sure that goodwill continues with the business. Make sure that the buyer is successful with the business. I'm just thinking right now, I have a friend that's going to buy a business. Business has been in business for almost 40 years. And that's what I love. I love businesses like that because the buyer has a really good shot of keeping it going.
Again, we are here in the boardroom, presented by Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches, joined now by Andy Cagnetta, the CEO of Transworld Business Advisors. Transworld has helped over 15,000 business owners maximize the value of their company. Learn more at tworld.com today. Andy, we've talked a ton about Caitlin Clark, and we're going to talk about her a ton more. As again, she deserves the attention for what she's done for women's basketball. But we had a veteran, a pretty well-known veteran, Diana Taurasi, make some interesting comments about Caitlin Clark's entrance into the WNBA and how much success she's going to have. Taurasi said, quote, "Reality is coming. There's levels to this thing. And that's just life. We all went through it. You see it on the NBA side. You're going to see it on this side. You look superhuman playing against 18-year-olds, but you're going to come with some grown women who have been playing professional basketball for a long time," end quote. Andy, what did you think of Taurasi's comments? She's gotten a lot of blowback on, maybe she should have been a little bit more supportive of Caitlin Clark with all that she has done and is going to do, is doing for the WNBA. What did you make of Taurasi's comments?
She's just mad that they beat UConn, I think. So, yeah, I think she should have been more supportive. I mean, Caitlin Clark has brought this all to a new level. Even the coach of South Carolina said so.
Oh, yeah, Dawn Staley, sure.
Dawn Staley. I mean, and I thought she was super. The way she handled it was perfect, and South Carolina definitely deserved that game. They were obviously the better team. Even though I thought they were going to make a little run at the end, Iowa, but listen, she's going to. You saw her under pressure, Caitlin Clark under pressure, going against a great team, missing threes, trying to force shots. I think she's going to have that in the WNBA too. But she's going to listen. She's a great player. She's the greatest scorer ever in college. She's going to be good. Another story that I saw come out, which was interesting, that by the way, I'm a big fan of Angel Reese too. Mm-hmm. I think she did a great job. I think people are down on her too much. I think she was a fantastic athlete as well. They were saying basically her and Caitlin will probably find roster positions, but they were saying that most of the supporting players, some of the great players in the in the NCAAs this year, will not find roster spots in the WNBA. They'll be drafted, but they won't find roster spots because there's so few teams and so few spots, and there's so many great players. I think that's what Taurasi was trying to say. There's so few teams, 12 teams, and that many roster spots of people playing. I mean, there's only 5 on a court.
12 and 12, probably about 144 players.
Right.
Yeah.
So 144 players, they're going to be the best of the best, and you're going to be competing against them. It's going to be a rough road for her. That's why the WNBA has to expand. But Taurasi should have been more excited because I think Caitlin Clark can make that happen.
Yeah.
I think there are cities that are out there that are going to embrace this, and they're going to ask for more expansion teams. And I think there's going to be people who are paying $1 billion for a team that couldn't find a home in 4 years in Scottsdale, for an NHL team, which historically the NHL teams haven't made money. I mean, maybe they're doing well now, but they didn't for a long time. I think there's going to be a spot for maybe, I hope, another half dozen teams over the next 10 years.
Andy, along the lines of WNBA expansion, this is something that I've talked about for, I guess, the past week or so now, and I saw this idea thrown out on a Barstool podcast, and I love it. It's a little gimmicky, but they were talking about the WNBA basically, barnstorming, going from place to place, city to city, a little bit like the Globetrotters, and I'm not saying where they don't have a home, but the Indiana Fever, they're playing 40 games this year. Let's say they play 15 at home, 15 on the road, and then you have 10 games where you go to cities where there isn't professional basketball. Obviously, there's a lot of big college towns in Big Ten country, Columbus and Ann Arbor and Madison. And then you stay in the Midwest, Kansas City, Omaha, St. Louis. You rattle off some more. Go down to Little Rock. Go. I know you have the Pelicans, but go down to New Orleans and have Angel Reese play down there. I mean, what do you think about putting the show on the road for a little bit if you are the WNBA and trying to explore some new cities and drum up some more interest in the game?
The NFL does it.
Yeah,
the NFL does it.
They're going to Brazil.
They're going to Brazil. They went to Mexico City. They went to Germany. They went to London several times now. I think that I think it's a great idea. Wonderful idea. Listen, West Palm doesn't have a basketball team. Fort Lauderdale has a basketball team. You're talking 2 million people, just about as much as Miami. And in Miami doesn't have a WNBA team. Used to.
And again, as I said, I know it sounds a little bit gimmicky. The WNBA, wants to be treated like a true professional sports league. They should. You don't see NBA teams going on the road 10 times a year, but the biggest league in the world, the NFL, is all about growing the game. And if the NFL does it, I think the WNBA should do it. Kind of along those lines, Andy, just going back to something Transworld specific, talking about, gimmicks and things like that. Where have you seen, I guess, do you sometimes have to draw the line between thinking outside the box creatively and, again, overextending yourself and saying, this is a little much. This is a little embarrassing. I know we want to think outside the box, but let's pump the brakes a little bit right here.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, listen, I catch some of my franchisees. I catch some of the people that are working for me trying to get attention out there. And sometimes they do it in silly ways or they do it in kind of edgy ways. And I have to call them up and say, hey, listen, one of my guys parked his Mercedes in front of my office. He came out in like a black shirt and a black suit and says, hey, I'm here to sell your business. And I'm like, yeah, that's not quite our brand.
Yeah.
So, you have to be careful of that, certainly. But it works the other way too. It's funny. We used to own a pasta shop in Hartford, Connecticut. And everybody that passed by this place always used to say, I didn't even know you were here. And we were in a historic district and we needed to repaint our place. And I'm like, let's get a pink primer, like pink. Mm-hmm. Let's paint the whole place pink. And the historical society will go berserk because we'll paint it bubblegum pink. And they'll be like, you can't leave that pink in the middle of the historic district. And I'm like, but it'll be perfect. We'll get headlines in the paper. People will be like, writing letters to the Historic Society. They'll be writing us letters, and then we'll paint it the right color.
Andy, we're going to hit a break here in just a second. Would love to have you with us on the other side. But before we do that, everything we talk about is about change, whether It's the college sports landscape, conference realignment, NIL, and just everything going on there. Live Golf and PGA and just the all the drama in golf, the sports coming, sort of getting bigger, pickleball and everything else. Again, it's just change. When you look specifically to the business world, what are the things that are causing the most change, the most disruption in, your line of work these days?
Well, there's two things that just immediately came into mind. Yes, AI, ChatGPT, all that kind of stuff. I talk about it every single day. I work on software and all the different things that we're trying to implement at Transworld to make our systems better, do predictive data, understand all that. But the other big thing that's happening right now in the general population is 12,000 people are turning 65 every single day in the United States.
Wow.
That is a record. There will be over 4 million people this year that turn 65. Baby boomers have to sell. There is a huge amount of wealth and business equity that needs to change hands in the next 5 to 10 years. And there's going to be, they call it the seller tsunami. They call it the silver tsunami. There's all kinds of things that have to happen. And Gen X and everybody below that has an opportunity to buy and grow businesses. And we're just so excited about it.